Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Lebanon Utility Service Board for Wednesday, June 8th, 2022. Let the record reflect that the meeting was properly advertised, and we have a full slate of board members, less Bill Stoner tonight. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item tonight's the approval of our minutes from the May 18th, 2022 meeting. Everyone had a chance to review those minutes, and if so, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Jim to approve the minutes from the May 18th, 2022 meeting. Any additional questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next item is an information item tonight. It's the MISO capacity shortfall. And Josh is here, Josh McKay, and he's going to address the board tonight. Hi, Josh.
Hi. First of all, I'd like to say thanks for this opportunity to present. My topic covers, as you alluded to, the MISO capacity shortfall. So MISO stands for Mid-Continent Independent Systems Operator. They're an independent, not-for-profit electric power transmission organization. They're basically like the air traffic controllers of the regional power grid. They're a member-based organization comprised of investor-owned utilities, municipally owned utilities such as IMPA, and electric cooperatives. They operate and manage the grid in 15 U.S. states, which comprises of over 42 million people that depend on them for their electric power. They both buy and sell electricity. They buy their electricity at annual auctions, and they also partner with members to facilitate future grid planning.
Does that annual auction price change?
Yes, it does.
Does it change during the year? I mean, in other words, when I saw the latest auction price, do they auction once a year?
I'm pretty sure it's once a year. And at the last IMPA board meeting I went to, they talked about the results of this year's auction. So I take that to mean it's once a year.
Will the auction price change between that year time span?
Yes, I believe it does. I have not been into their monitoring room, but I think Ed has.
Yeah, IMPA manages that for us. We're just wanting to pass this on because what happens to MISO has been in the news, and it rolls down to Lebanon utilities, and we could have the possibility of a shortfall. But does the price actually changes? There's a market for it on the grid. They have a monitoring room where they look at prices at individual points on the grid, and it's really kind of interesting. You can look at some place up in Michigan where they have very low demands and very high power output, and the price utilities can have for power on the grid between each other is actually negative. So the price fluctuates. It's a little bit like, I was talking to Josh about how it's a little bit like the stock market for power. There's a market for it, and IMPA does they have a monitoring room where they manage their different power resources on different grids in different places to try and get us the best price.
So if we have a price shock today, we may have a month from now, we may have another shock, or we may have a lower price that would be less shocking.
Well, I know it fluctuates with supply and demand.
Okay, good. Thank you.
But the prices shown on some of this stuff, it's beyond normal demand, right? The normal demand pricing is set and it's fairly stable.
Yeah, normal demand's set and it's fairly stable, and we have a power agreement with IMPA, but where the shortfall is going to come is there's a graph later in Josh's presentation where there's a big spike, because what it looks like is that if all the demands meet on a very hot day, there might be a shortfall for MISO and thus for IMPA, what they would do is rolling blackouts, because it sounds bad, and it's very unlikely that, from what they tell us, to have rolling blackouts, but the thing of it is, that it's better than having a brownie out and a cascading failure like they had in Texas not too long ago, and Ohio, I want to say maybe 10 years ago now, when they had a big problem where they were dark for several hours.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Sorry to step on your presentation there, Josh. Go ahead.
Yeah, keep going, Josh.
Perfectly okay. So the MISO North is comprised of zones 1 through 7. And south is 8 through 10. Of course, we're in zone 6, and that's where all of IMPA's load is. The Indiana grid consists of both MISO and PJM. PJM stands for Pennsylvania, Jersey, and Maryland intercontinent grid system, and then all the yellow dots are the IMPA members, and you can see they fall in both territories. So the reliability factors, obviously supply must meet or exceed customer demand, and the energy reserves must be in place for any unforeseen circumstances, which include deviations in the load forecast model, which are mainly due to hotter than average summer temperatures that spike demand. And then also the generation unit at the power plants, whether they have either a scheduled maintenance or forced shutdowns with the generation units themselves. So the north central load requirement is about 101.25 gigawatts. The area obligation, which includes the reserves, consists of 135.3 gigawatts. And the capacity shortfall in this year, the 2022-23 planning reserve is 1.23 gigawatts. And I must say that currently MISO's supply exceeds the demand, that the shortfall is due to the forecasted reserve value not being met. So any of that uncertainty, they somehow forecast how much they need for that, and then that's where the 1.23 gigawatt falls. So right now we're in pretty good shape. So the north auction availability for energy is decreasing year over year, and that's due to the coal-fired generation plants are going through supply chain difficulties. The coal supply is low compared to historic levels due to mine closures, shipping limitations, and increased exporting. And I pulled this, not the graph, I made the graph, however, I got the figures from MISO website for this June, and it shows that the coal power plants are the majority producers of electric power.
See, I have a question. So this chart reflects all 15 states combined?
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
And so the outcome is...
Go back to that slide, please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was surprised from, as a layperson reading I've been doing, that solar is so low. I know for IMPA, it's not that low, but for that 15-state area, you're confident in these numbers, right?
Yes, I'm confident that MISO gave me the correct percentage values.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So the outcome of that is higher market clearing prices. And as you can see, this planning year, 2021-22 planning year was $5 per megawatt day, and it jumped up to $236.6 per megawatt day, which is significantly higher, and that will also lead to significantly high electricity costs for consumers. And then also there's the other outcome would be possible load shedding or rolling blackouts, which are controlled.
So that additional cost would happen if we had to draw on the excess over the reserves, right? In other words,
Yeah, can you go back to the graph, Josh? Yeah.
that cost only factors in if we have to go on the market to purchase power because of a heat emergency. Is that right?
I
Yes, and technically, though, if the IMPA has to go on the market, they'll pass it on to us, but
Right.
yes.
Pass it on to us, but it's not going to happen unless there's a heat emergency that we have to go out and purchase it.
Yeah, that's correct. And also, one thing to add on to that is, when Josh and I were discussing this, we were like, well, how come they use the market? How come IMPA doesn't develop more of its own resources? Well, if you look at their graph, they look at their mix and making their own resources, and if they figure out it's going to be $8 per megawatt day for them to maintain and build their own resource, and it's only $5 on the market, then it doesn't make sense financially for them to build it. But that this spike where it goes up to 236 is just an odd thing that's happened based off of the supply shortfall with COVID, and there's also a factor in that there's a mandate to close down certain coal power plants that's affecting the market in the future.
Absolutely.
Yep. Absolutely.
So MISO does have an approach for mitigation. They can import power from other interconnected grids such as PJM, but the surplus power from the external sources are not considered firm, and they are not included in that planning reserve. So if and PJM does have a surplus and they're willing to help us out. However, if they're in trouble, then they can't help us out. So that's why they can't consider those as firm resources. And then also they'll make some public appeals to conserve energy in which they will coordinate with all the members if that's needed. And then last resort is the load shedding or the rolling blackouts. There will be no action needed by the members, us. That will be performed at the transmission level. And then also MISO will maintain overall integrity of the system, and they will employ protocols, and they have those protocols in place to prevent any of the cascading outages, as what Ed alluded to earlier. For the rolling blackouts to take place, two things have to happen simultaneously. They have to have those above average summer temperatures and the generation shutdowns, whether it be due to the planned maintenance or the unplanned forced shutdowns. So both of those things have to happen. And so it's not highly likely that it will happen, but it's a possibility. So, and that concludes my presentation. If anybody has any further questions.
Thank you.
Yep, it's good information, Josh.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
All right, next item tonight is an action item. Jeff Greeno will be addressing the Sunbrook Section 3 change order. Hey, Jeff.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is a request to make a change order to the Sunbrook Section 3 work order that we had. Some additional equipment needed to be installed for this project. This project was a pretty large project, and on large projects, as you know, you run into some obstacles. This will raise the cost of the not-to-exceed limit by only $558. We have completed Sunbrook Section 3, all the electrical installation. They are energized and up and going. So I would like to ask the board to approve the change order to Sunbrook Section 3, the not-to-exceed amount from $39,569 to $40,127, which is a $558 increase, and have General Manager Ed Basco sign all documents.
Right, any questions for Jeff? Jeff, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but you presume this would be the final change order here?
Yeah, we're already connected, right?
Yeah, that's,
Yes,
Okay.
we're energized. It's completed.
okay.
This is less than 2% of the
Yeah,
original
it's-
budget. That's well within any engineering contingency you'd ever use, so.
Small number.
It's
Yeah.
just the rules with the not to exceed.
Right.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and move to approve the change order to Sunbrook Section, you want to ask first?
Nope. I'm ready to entertain your motion.
In the amount of $558 from Barriott Utility Service Company, bringing the total not to exceed amount to $40,127. All documents to be reviewed and approved by the general manager.
Seconded.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Jim to approve the Sunbrook Section 3 change order in the amount of $558, bringing the total not to exceed of $40,127. Any additional questions or discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay, next item tonight is an action item as well. It's the lead and copper assistance request, and Ryan Oettinger will be addressing this. Hey, Ryan?
Good afternoon. This request is for assistance with the upcoming update to the lead and copper rule from the Environmental Protection Agency and also through IDEM. And this will include getting an inventory of any lead-based services or water services for a homeowner and having that in a database for future use. Also will include training for staff members so we can do data input and operate that software internally. Will also help with sampling, any possible grants that are out there to help us comply with the future mandates, and then also communication with the customers. If there is an issue in the future and any service lines need to be replaced or a potential customer could have a temporary water outage, this task or this project would also help with that communication. We reached out to 4 different companies, providers that could possibly help us with this. We also set in on 3 demonstrations of the software from these companies, and based on the proposals and based on the demonstrations, I have concluded that 120 Water would be the best fit for our needs and for the program as we move on in the future. And that is for a cost of $21,118. Unfortunately, this was not a budgeted amount due to the fact that I was planning on doing this in '23. But with some of the updates that came out and the fact that there could be toward the end of the year blocks of grant money available, I didn't want to miss that window by waiting to put it in next year's budget. So this year's portion of the this year's contract will be unbudgeted, but it will be in next year's budget to continue this program till we so we can continue on with compliance and any updates that the EPA puts out. We do have to have a complete inventory turned into the EPA by October of 2024, and it is already June of '22, and that time frame is not long when it comes to getting our inventory taken care of and being in compliance. So I can take any questions that the board might have on the subject.
Identification of lead service lines, customer lead service lines would be primarily determined by time of construction?
There are a few different things that would trigger time of construction. If we've done any improvements in that area, what we try to do is when we put new meters in, we can use some of the asset management from our meter replacement program to know also. But then we also, just some old-fashioned going out with our vac truck and vacuuming out the meter in the area, the incoming service line and then the homeowner service line, and determine if we don't have any data on it, we can go out and determine that way what kind of service line they have and where they go in the inventory and the asset management.
So our vac truck camera is able to identify a line that potentially has lead?
No, not a camera. So we have a small vac a vacuum on the water department, so you're not digging around and potentially damaging any water lines.
Oh, okay.
You can vac down and you can visibly expose
Okay.
the water line on both sides of the meter and the meter pit, and then we can add that to the inventory.
So you can visually, experienced people can visually identify lead lines?
Yeah, potentially, not on every single one. And then also, even with like, when you say the age, even if a house was built in the 50s, they potentially could have redone all the plumbing and started at the meter and put new PVC in last year. So that would take that portion of the section off the inventory as far as a potential lead. So there's a lot of moving parts in determining how that inventory looks.
Thank you.
And 120 Water will assist us in that too, and gathering that, not gathering the data, but inputting it into the asset management program.
Right, any other questions for Ryan? All right, if not, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the assistance for the EPA updated lead and copper rule from 120 Water in the amount of $21,118.50.
And we want to make that subject to legal review also. Is that correct, Jim?
Okay, I read it wrong. It's $21,118.
And 50 cents, and then subject to legal review, correct?
Yeah, let's check that.
Okay. Any,
I'll second that.
second? Okay. Motion made by Jim, seconded by Tim to approve the assistance for the EPA updated lead and copper rule from 120 Water in the amount of $21,118.50, subject to legal review. Any additional discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you for that, Ryan. I know you're standing by for the next item, which is the frog task order action item.
Yep, switching sides from the incoming water to the outgoing water. This is a task order for Wessler Engineering's assistance in implementing a FROG, which is an acronym for Fats, Rags, Oils, and Grease program. This will allow us to implement a program to educate and assist businesses and homeowners on how to properly dispose of common and uncommon items that could potentially cause damage to sewer lines, lift station, and ultimately the wastewater treatment facility. Wessler Engineering has assisted Lebanon Utilities and continues to assist Lebanon Utilities with our sewer use ordinance initial writing, also updates on the sewer use ordinance, and they also assist with our pre-treatment program. This is kind of under the umbrella of both of those programs, so it makes sense to have Wessler help us with this, just for efficiency purposes, and the fact that they're very good at what they do when it comes to pre-treatment and the sewer use ordinance and trying to eliminate any SSOs in the community. So this task order would help with reviewing the sewer use ordinance, also assisting us in designing specs to go with this program, education to go with this program, how we would conduct inspections, help with asset management, and getting the program going to eliminate fats, rags, oils, and grease from entering our system at all, which will ultimately save us money. EPA estimates that 50% of all sewer blockages for residents and commercial/restaurants, 50% of that is related to one of the items, fats, rags, oils, or grease in the United States. So cutting back on that makes our plant run more efficiently, has manpower directed to more appropriate items, and not taking up manpower to replace pumps that are affected by this or unclog sewer lines that are affected by this. It also can potentially save the homeowner money by not having backups in their sewer lateral, which they are responsible for, to either be cleaned out or have to be dug out and replaced. But not every homeowner knows that, so the education process of this is also vital, along with the inspection program for restaurants and commercial businesses. And I can take any questions that the board might have on this.
Thank you, Ryan. Any questions for Ryan?
Just so the public knows, this was a subject of working session just for this meeting where we had a lot more information and asked a lot more questions.
Yes, this is a very high level. I believe a few years ago, there was a utility board meeting where I went through, I did have a PowerPoint to show some of the damages that the fats, rags, oils, and grease can do, and we wanted to start that program up. And then unfortunately, like a lot of public education programs, COVID put a stop to that outreach, put a stop to in-person inspections or in-person meetings, and so we had to push pause on this. And this task order is going to help us get the wheels rolling back on this program again.
All right, thank you, Ryan. If there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve the task order number 11 for the fats, rags, oil, and grease program from Westler Engineering in an amount not to exceed $30,000.
Second.
Motion made by Aaron, seconded by Tim to approve the task order number 11 for the fats, rags, oils, and grease program from Westler Engineering in an amount not to exceed $30,000. Anything additional? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Ryan. A lot of stuff from you, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is the approval of our claims, payroll, and transfers. Everyone had a chance to review those items, and if so, entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the claims, payroll, and transfers dated June 8th, 2022, in the amount of $2,873,823.49 for claims and payroll, and $6,307,894.34 for transfers.
Second.
Motion made by Jim and seconded by Aaron to approve the claims, payrolls, and transfers dated June 8th, 2022. Anything additional for these items? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next item is any other business. Do any board members have business or anything from you tonight, Ed?
No, sir, that's all.
I missed a few meetings before, but during the working session, wasn't we supposed to have a call absentee, if there's absenteeism or anything?
Oh, you mean the ability to call in or participate virtually?
Yes.
Yeah, we still have that ability if we need to, right?
Yeah.
I believe the emergency powers are still in effect. I could double check with legal on that.
Emergency power is not in effect, but I don't think. But we passed a resolution allowing video participation under certain guidelines where, a couple of them where you have to be able to be heard by the audience, and every vote has to be recorded by individual. There's a couple of the items, but that is available to our members to participate electronically.
I just wasn't sure whether it was a rule that had to be carried out, no matter if somebody's missing or what.
Well, we're glad to have you back with us, that's for sure. All right.
I think the primary thing for that is just to let Danny know if you want to call in, and she can have it arranged for us.
Okay.
Anyone have anything else for the board tonight? Any public comment tonight? Anything you're aware of, Ed, on public comment?
No public comments.
Next board meeting scheduled for the 22nd of June at 5 PM. And if there's nothing further, we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Jim, seconded by Aaron to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, everyone. We'll stand adjourned.
Standing here now with Mel Kenyon, a